Well, hopefully you're joining us from the first part, if we haven't bored you by now.
If you haven't seen the first part, watch the first part.
Yeah, watch the first part.
Because you might throw in some jokes that we did in the first one you don't understand where we're
If
going.
you don't like us, tell us, because we like being insulted. We're
really
sadists.
Do. Yes.
I'm kind of masochistic, but sadists nonetheless. So, on that topic, we saw this week Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds.
Basterds, which I know some people think it's a remake of the old blaxploitation Inglourious Basterds.
The Inglourious Basterds.
The only really same thing is 8 soldiers killing Nazis, and the title.
The only same thing is that?
Yeah, the only like.
Yeah, but everything else is different.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if I could really like talk about this film without first going like, if you like Quentin Tarantino, like you're a dedicated follower of Quentin Tarantino, you're probably gonna like the film.
Most likely. Which
I have a problem with and I am a Quentin Tarantino fan.
He really is. I find him very overrated.
Yeah, I mean I like the majority of his films. I did not care for Death Proof, but the other ones I really liked.
I think he started on Death Proof.
You didn't like Death Proof?
I did not like.
I thought you liked Death Proof.
Sean likes Death Proof.
Sean liked
I was very bored throughout it.
Yeah. Well, see, he at least had some reasons in Death Proof because he was trying to make it into a grindhouse film,
which are very boring.
Yeah. But I digress.
Back to Inglourious Basterds.
Inglourious Basterds. It's the story of 8 soldiers in a band who only...
It's more like 9 soldiers.
Is it 9 because the Aldo...
Yeah, there's a 7 with Aldo and Eli Roth's character. And
no, he's not considered one of them?
I guess not. And then Michael Fassbender, who they grab.
That's another thing. Eli Roth is in this film. If you don't know who Eli Roth is, if I'm pronouncing it wrong or incorrectly, he's the director of Cabin Fever, Hostel, Hostel Part 2. He even had a bit role in Death Proof.
Yes. He did the Thanksgiving trailer.
Yes, and he did the Thanksgiving trailer, which was amazing. I have nothing against Eli Roth as far as a director. I think Hostel 2 was a little... I mean, I like the idea behind Hostel 1. Hostel 2 is a little out there. Cabin Fever I loved. He knows what he's doing when it comes to horror.
Yes.
But he and Quentin Tarantino have become buddies. And in doing so, they put each other in each other's movies. Kind of like how Anthony and I put each other in each other's movies, because we're friends, and it's cool, and it's fun.
Yes.
But when you're talking big-budget movies, you probably don't want to do that
unless... You want to get talent.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's, like, the most untalented person ever, but you can definitely tell that that role needed someone more intimidating, more...
Oh, of course. Because, what's his nickname? The Bear
Jew.
And then you see him, and he's like this scrawny dude.
With a bat.
Yes.
And the movie... To give you, it follows 2 different stories, I think. One story being a young Jewish girl escapes from being massacred alongside of her family by a German soldier known as the Jew Hunter, played by...
I have no idea his name.
Sean kept saying his name, and it eludes me now. I apologize.
I'm very sorry.
And it follows her 4 years later and how she comes into paths with this character again, but he doesn't recognize, as well as the side story of the Inglourious Basterds band group, going to kill Nazis. I mean, there's not really much to this plot. Quentin Tarantino does the usual, and by the usual, I mean... the movie probably consists of 3 really long scenes.
Yes.
There's a bar scene that probably goes on for about 30 minutes.
I think it's like 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah, and you don't notice it until he starts circling the table like he did in Death Proof. And I don't want to ruin things about the movie, but in most Quentin Tarantino movies, main characters have tons of backstory and then are eliminated.
Yes.
So you kind of feel cheated. You know, you've established some sort of relationship with this character, and then all of a sudden that relationship is terminated. And you're hoping that that termination will lead to something bigger, but it doesn't, other than it felt like it was for shock value or something like that. Another problem I had with this film was that they switch a lot between languages.
They really do. The one thing I found, like, there'll be, like, the opening scene, he'll say... things in French, and the subtitle will be in French.
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup, this and that. And I'm like, at first I was like, did I just say Mary? And then Sean's like, hey, that's it. I was like, oh, why? But like he'll say like, merci.
And he'll say merci.
Thank you in French or whatever.
Yeah.
and then like 6 times, and then he'll say it again, and they'll say thank you in English, and I'm like, why are they
well,
doing
and
this?
a lot of like whereas some of it seems motivated, where they switch between French to English and even German to English and even some Italian.
Buongiorno.
They it doesn't always seem well motivated, other than they just felt like switching.
I think most of the times they switch, it's always like, hey, do you speak English? You mind if we speak English? All right.
Why? Because we, the audience, are English.
Yes.
The soundtrack, as in most Quentin Tarantino movies, I thought was going to be outstanding. It felt like a rehash of the Kill Bill soundtrack. I lie to you not, there are some, at least notes in it that are very reminiscent of standoffs in Kill Bill.
Yes.
As well as much as I love David Bowie, there is a very ill-placed Cat People by David Bowie in the film.
The one thing I liked the score. It was very Sergio Leone.
Yeah.
So like when I was watching, I felt like maybe I was watching A Fistful of Dollars or a few dollars more, Good, Bad, the Ugly, and I was like, this is really good.
Well, see,
and then I found out that it's the same composer, but all he did was rehash his own stuff from those movies, and I was like,
nothing original.
Oh, that's why I felt like I was watching.
Well, that's another thing. Style-wise, I thought this was the way it starts off. It seems very accurate. I want to say, like it's trying to be historical. It's trying to be historically correct, dates-wise, setting-wise, language, stuff like that. But by the end, you find out it's more like
a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale. You know, it's what we wish would have happened during the Nazi regime and all. So, acting-wise, Brad Pitt. Some people like him. I found him just to be John Wayne.
See, I'm not a big Brad Pitt fan in general. So like when I hear Brad Pitt, I'm just like, oh, okay.
Well, like I mean, like his voice was. I always do my John Wayne impression, but it was like, oh, hey there, Pilgrim, and he had that, but he was a little bit more raspy with it, and like, I don't know, he was, and it felt like every line of dialogue written for Brad Pitt's character was supposed to make the audience laugh, and when I wasn't laughing, and like your few like unintelligent audience members were, I just felt very cheated from dialogue-wise. And then in other instances, the dialogue went on way too long. So, overall, for this film, I'm going to have to give it... I mean, it wasn't the worst film I've ever seen. It was very... Gore-wise, it was very good. But it was very few and far between, though.
That was really cool shot.
Head bashing, a lot of carving and knifing and stuff like that. So I'm going to give it 2. 2 out of 5. Because the gore was good. It is a Quentin Tarantino movie, which shouldn't mean that it's good. It just should mean that some aspects of it can be explained.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean just because he directed it, it's good.
Yes. I'm giving it 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Mainly because I'm not big... Well, I'm not going to say because I'm not big Quentin Tarantino. I mean, I actually went in there thinking, ugh, and walked out like, it wasn't as bad as I thought. But it was really long for me. I think if he would have gave it to me, I could have cut an hour out of it and make it short.
That makes sense.
What's the point?
So, looks like we're going to have to divide this into a third part.
Sorry.
So, stay tuned for part 3 for discussion about the Avatar footage, as well as upcoming movies next week in theaters and our DVD reviews.